I think one of our campaigns should be any campaigns that Mark and Andy run that get over 200 need to be made law.
I think very much by the nature of this podcast, if anything that we talk about ever gets made law, there is something very seriously wrong with this country.
Or something very seriously right with this country.
And welcome to episode 9 of the Inane Campaign podcast. If you don't know what we are by now, where have you been? This is the show where we look around on change.org and find the most bizarre, weird, wonderful and wacky campaigns, and then use what we've learned about those to launch our own inane campaigns and fight it out between us to win the most support for our petitions. I'm Mark Rowe, and I'm joined once again by my good friend Andy Gleach. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Mark. How's life?
It's once again been quite a week, hasn't it?
Well, that is an understatement. Can I just start at the start?
Go on.
At the start of the campaigns, and it just went crazy from the off. I didn't know what to do because I got up in the morning and you'd posted a video, and the video was crazy, Mark. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, your campaign jumped overnight by 30 people, and I'd messaged you on WhatsApp and the like, and I was like, what happened here, Mark? That's very odd. Oh, lucky you. And then mine did that, and you took to social media, didn't you, to declare corruption, and you were compelling people to drain the swamp like a Donald Trump on roid rage.
I was absolutely furious because it had all the hallmarks of somebody putting money into a campaign, which I still think has happened, to be honest. We had quite a long backwards and forwards chat where I was basically accusing you of all sorts of dodgy underhand dealings. I hope I'm right in saying that I believe that you are completely innocent and that somehow your campaign took off. You have a smile on your face that makes me think I might be wrong, though.
Oh, no, not at all. No, I just think because I'm Northern Irish, you clearly thought, well, he can fight a dirty war, whatever that is. And you and I talked about this on WhatsApp. And I think as soon as I put that up, I must have had an anonymous helper, probably my dad or something like that. You know, if you're listening, Dad, or you're watching, cheers, love you, thank you very much. But yeah, I definitely was not up to anything underhand. But your video was hilarious. That's when I knew that this is no longer a game.
It was recorded at about 1:45 in the morning. I was sat there trying to do the first part of editing the video and put it all together, and just had the change page open. And every time I clicked refresh on it, it had jumped another 2 or 3, and I was stuck on 1. At one point, I thought that it would be funnier to just not bother playing this week and be stuck on 1 for the entire week. Just not mention my campaign, not put it out there, and just have 1 all week, almost like waving the white flag right from the word go. But then I remembered what this is all about, and I thought, no, I'm going to come out fighting.
And come out fighting you did, my friend. But my favourite part of the video was the phrase, Andy's gone all corporate. In most cases, that means professional and slick and a little bit soulless. But you just basically meant thieving. You know, Jeremy Corbyn over there, Mark Corbyn, the left-wing firebrand. You know, they're all at it, these businesses, stealing everything, including signatures. It was just brilliant.
Well, I just thought if you're going to buy a win, then that's no good to anybody, is it? It's not in the spirit of the game, is it? If you're going to buy your success. We talked about this in about episode 3 and said that's not good enough. So I was convinced. I was absolutely livid.
23 supporters in an hour. Unheard of. 24 supporters. Please help.
If you want to see the extent to which I lost the plot and was furious, then go onto our Facebook group, the Inane Campaign podcast. I'll pin it to the top so it's easy to find. But go on there and have a look and just see what it looks like to have a man who is broken before the competition has even begun.
After that, I was like, I don't care how this week goes. I feel like I've already won somehow.
Well, I did, like I said, I came out fighting to the point where I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to use Andy's tactic from previously. I am just going to message every single person in my contacts list on Messenger. Before I got to the end of C in my address book, I got in trouble with Facebook, who refused to send any more messages. They deemed my message that I was sending out as offensive. That was the term that they used. It was offensive. But then the next day, suddenly, I'm allowed to keep sending it again. So they're about as decisive as our government at the moment, making rules about lockdown.
They must have thought, well, I know you said that it was offensive, but they also must have thought it was spam as well. Unless you were personalising the message, they've probably got some sort of computery thing that can go, this is a block of text that he continually keeps sending to different people, so it must be spam.
There was absolutely no time for personalisation. It was like, you're getting this message, you're getting the same message, you're getting the same message. And I still kept in there. I still basically accused you of being corrupt in that message because I thought that would support my cause.
I mean, it's a tactic. I also like the fact that you said there's no time for personalisation, because that's a very corporate thing to do, Mark, isn't it? You're very corporate.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll hold my hands up to that. I just had to get on and try and get as many people on board as I possibly could. I had a few other tactics. I didn't just try that this week. I tried to be a little bit more creative than that. I started tweeting all of the winemakers that I can think of. There's quite a few of those. I joined some Facebook groups with love wine, wine lovers, everything around that, need wine, inject wine straight into my arteries, all of the Facebook groups that basically suggest that people are, let's be honest, addicted to wine. I joined those and said that this would be a lot of fun to sign these petitions. I'm not sure how many of those paid off. I might have got a handful of people from those because there were some names on my list that weren't people that I directly messaged. So maybe that was what made the difference and that was what won it. I even came up with a wine quiz this week with 5 questions. I thought this was a really good idea. 5 wine-related questions, and I said, I'll release the answers and give you the next round of questions once I reach 64 signatures, which was 5 more than I was on to begin with. And I was going to keep doing that and release another round after every 5 signatures I got. Nobody played. Nobody played the quiz at all. Nobody answered the questions at all. So I found myself in a slightly embarrassing position of having to go, well, no one's played the quiz, but I have got the signatures now, so I suppose I'd better tell you what the answers are.
Yeah, well, you know, every strategy is a strategy, regardless of whether it paid off or not. It's just another thing that we try in the vain attempt to get some more supporters for our Inane signatures.
This is how bad it got this week, where you were saying about me being broken and me leaving that message. About 3 nights ago, I had my first Inane Campaign related nightmare. We were on exactly the same number of signatures and we were messaging each other, and within 2 minutes I looked round and you had jumped by 100 signatures. And I was just like, how on earth am I ever going to catch that up? What am I going to do to make this equal again?
Oh, mate, this is right inside your head. That's very worrying.
It is, yeah, it is. But I think it just added fuel to the fire and made me determined, which worked because I won this week. I'm getting there now. I think I've got my systems in place. I know what I'm doing. I know how to make these things work now. It took me a little while, sure. I wasn't quite there to begin with. You had a bit of a head start, but now I think I know what to do to at least put up a good fight. And what's that now, 5-3? It's a strong comeback, right?
5-3, it's looking much more respectable. I mean, 5-3 is close, if it goes 6-3, it's another slacking, isn't it, really, in Premier League terms? So you've got to hope that you can get it to 5-4.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, I will. I will fight again this week. I still feel like I had today that air of panic and worry that you were going to come back with your tea time takedown and ambush me. I worry about that. It's ever since you suggested it, I just think that has added an extra little bit of tension to the last day of the competition each time.
Yeah, and the difficulty is on a Wednesday, if you're like me, Mark, you're preparing this week's podcast and you're looking for campaigns and you might be scripting your blurb for your campaign and so on. And the last thing you want to do is have to scramble around for signatures as well. So tea time takedown is a thing. It will happen at some point when you least expect it. And I'm going to be like, bam, take that. There's 12 signatures and I'm going to beat you by 1 just on purpose.
Before we talk about our campaigns, what have you found on change this week that other people have put up?
I promised you last week that I would talk to you about aubergine abuse.
Oh, yes.
And I will. I'm a man of my word. The campaign is just called #EndAubergineAbuse because, you know, as we know, a hashtag can get stuff trending. You may have seen this everywhere, Mark, #EndAubergineAbuse. I've seen it on bridges. I've seen it graffitied in toilets. I've seen it written in books in school. #EndAubergineAbuse is clearly the new CND symbol for this generation. Basically, Wilson Smith has said, this problem has been going on for years. Many people misuse and abuse our aubergines. We must stand up. Make it illegal for aubergines to be abused and give them the rights they deserve. I am an ex-aubergine, now pineapple, after I left my life of torture and abuse for a better world, and I would like to help other aubergines be freed from their chains. Now, I don't know about you, Mark, but I don't think an aubergine wrote that.
I tell you what I had listening to that. I just had a horrible vision of the future. I'd already said this week that it's starting to look serious in terms of my mental health with playing this game. And I just worry that that is somebody who started some time ago playing inane campaigns against somebody else and they have lost the plot and that is where they've come to now.
Maybe that is your bleak future, my friend.
It does look worrying, doesn't it? It does look worrying. All right, well, I found that this is a bit more cheerful. I found this one. Popcorn for all birds. It says this, I'm tired of seeing birds on the street eating worms, bugs and berries. It's 2019. It's time to make a change. Not for us, for the hard-working birds of the world.
Is that it? Popcorn for birds?
That's it. They wanted popcorn for birds. I think birds are all right, and I like popcorn. Why should birds miss out on popcorn?
I mean, I'm not really a big fan of popcorn. Do you know what I really don't understand? I don't understand salted popcorn at all.
I used to be like that. I now quite like you can mix sweet and salted together, and that's quite nice. I know, it doesn't sound like it would work, but it does. I used to be a real fan of... Do you remember you used to be able to go in the cinema and get buttered popcorn? And they would just...
Remember you used to go to the cinema?
Well, yeah, exactly. Do you remember those cinema things where you could go and communally watch films? But yeah, it's
a bit of an odd idea, isn't it, really?
What, going and sitting in a dark room and watching a film?
Yeah.
Because it seems like an odd idea now, because films are so readily available once they have been released. You know, it takes, about a week and a half before they're available on Netflix and Amazon and all of that. But it used to be that you would have to go to the cinema if you wanted to see a film, because it would be about 2.5 years before you could watch it on the telly.
The kids don't know they're born nowadays. Instant gratification, things instantly streamed into their eyeballs a minute after it came out in the cinema. What? Disney, I've seen today, are putting their live action film of Mulan straight on to Disney Plus, I think. and they're just bypassing all the cinemas because, well, why would you not at the minute? Because, newsflash, cinemas are shut.
I'll tell you who can't watch films on Netflix and Amazon, though.
Who?
Birds.
Well, yes, this is my other big issue. Why are you making a fairly cinema-related food substance available to birds that would not frequent cinemas?
Well, maybe they could. Maybe now that we know that there's spaces in the cinemas, we've already said that people aren't going there so much, let the birds go in, enjoy a film.
So while coronavirus and this pandemic is taking hold, essentially birds are down the Odeon watching what, Christopher Nolan's latest offering?
Yeah, well, it's going to carry on for a while, isn't it? Like, you're going to have social distancing within cinemas, so just put the birds in the seats. You haven't got a social distance from birds, have you?
Well, yeah, but are the birds sitting down? You know, are they not just flying around?
Well,
you need to fill out cinemas with perches.
I don't think that they should be flying around. I think that would be really distracting. That would really annoy me if they were doing that.
So the birds are in the cinema with you as well?
Yeah, well, just in the in-between seats where there are gaps.
Oh, right, okay. I mean, this has got very weird. I'm not okay. But, like, birds also defecate. So you're happy with all these birds possibly flying at any point during the cinema, during the film, and defecating on you?
No, obviously I'm not all right with that. If they're going to come in, they have to act responsibly, don't they?
So is there some sort of bird behaviour monitor now? Who's doing that? Because cinema attendants are the pits.
You wouldn't need a monitor. You would just need like an advert at the beginning. You know, when you have the adverts, turn off your mobile phones, or please don't talk during the film. You could have one for the birds just saying don't fly around and poo on people.
Or you could just send out a tweet.
Well, I was just thinking when you said what film would they watch, don't show them Hitchcock. Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to be on your own in a cinema that's full of birds watching the birds? That would be the ultimate terrifying experience, wouldn't it?
Oh God, that's not good at all. Like, birds are quite scary when they want to be. Like these seagulls that are down at the seaside and just like attacking kids for their lunch and stuff. And like where I live, you've got red kites that are becoming increasingly ambitious and sort of confident with what they can take from who. And I'm like, just no, birds, no. I think, Planet of the Apes, it's not going to be Planet of the Apes. It's going to be Planet of the Avians. That's what it's going to be.
Oh, yeah. I got mugged by a seagull once.
That is not a sentence I thought I would hear from you today.
It stole a chicken burger right out of my hand. I was living.
Hang on. That's cannibalism?
Well, it's not. Well, I suppose it's seagulls and yeah, maybe.
That is cannibalism. A bird eating a bird is cannibalism. There's no two ways about that.
Well, it definitely had. I mean, I'd literally had one tiny bite of this burger, went like that, and it came over my shoulder, stole the chicken burger and flew off, and then parked itself on a railing across from me and just looked smugly and arrogantly at me like, yeah, you're not having it back.
Well, Sarah and I went to Gibraltar one time and we got mugged by monkeys. And the monkey that mugged us did the same thing, basically had a bit of a tug of war with Sarah with a plastic bag that had baguettes in it, homemade baguettes that we brought up to the rock because we were told, oh, it's really expensive up at the top. But then whenever we were going up to the rock, there was all these signs going, don't bring food with you, the monkeys will steal it. Don't bring food with you, the monkeys will steal it. And we were like, it doesn't apply to us somehow. And as soon as we got out of the lift, these monkeys just went, had a tug of war. The big monkey realized he wasn't going to get the bag. So he just went with his big monkey hand, went and grabbed 2 full-size, full-length French baguettes that had chorizo and cheese and stuff in them, and then just took them, unwrapped the wrapping, and sort of like laid it out for all of them to feast on, and then sat on the railing just like your bird and was like, yeah, come at me, bro.
Yeah, they're thugs. I've been to Gibraltar. I've seen the monkeys. They are basically thugs.
They are dreadful, so scary. And apparently there's like a chief monkey that sets the tone for the rest of the monkeys for however long they're alive for. And if that monkey's a bad one, the whole lot are a bad one. And if that monkey's sort of calm and placid, you know, it chills them all out. It's just fascinating.
What, like President Monkey?
President Monkey, essentially. Well, we're seeing it play out in America, aren't we?
Exactly.
And to some extent, we're seeing it play out here as well, you know? So monkeys are monkeys.
Talking of America, I found this as well. This was interesting. It was allow Pastafarianism to be a thing in the US. And then there was another one, allow Pastafarianism to be a thing in the UK. Right? Now, this is from the UK one. The flying spaghetti monster is portrayed as a tangle of spaghetti with many noodly appendages flanked by two large meatballs and with a pair of googly eyes upon stalks. This portrayal is, of course, a guess, as the flying spaghetti monster is understandably invisible to all current known forms of scientific detection.
Yeah, this is this sort of a quasi-philosophical idea that the flying spaghetti monster is as valid a kind of form of religious worship as a Christian God, as a Muslim Allah, and all the rest of it. So yeah, the flying spaghetti monster. Who supports that more? Is there more for the US than the UK? Or
well, what do you reckon? Obviously, there's a lot more people in the US.
The US sort of portray themselves as pretty full-on religious, don't they? Mostly Christian. Yeah, I gotta think there's probably is there more in the UK?
There is more in the UK, yeah. There were 600 signatures in the UK and 300 and something in the US.
The flying spaghetti monster churches are not going to open anytime soon, I don't think.
There's not going to be lots of them. But is it about the building or is it about the people?
Oh, well, we're getting into philosophy again, aren't we here? I mean, if you did need a building, I know that there's some cinemas that are vacant at the minute where you could worship, but you just got to dodge the bird droppings, really, don't you?
I was going to say they're busy, full of birds.
Flying spaghetti monster could be a good thing for birds. Why can it not be the god of the birds?
I reckon the flying spaghetti monster should fear the birds. If anything's going to attack a flying spaghetti monster, probably birds.
That's a good point, because essentially it's just a big flying meal, isn't it?
Yeah, get some seagulls in there. They'll take him down within seconds.
Oh, that's a fight I want to watch. The flying spaghetti monster versus 500 seagulls.
Have you got any more? Have you done any more?
You know me, Mark. What I love doing more than anything is finding one search term and going deep on that search term. So this week's search term for Gleeksy is goats.
Okay.
How many pages are goat related, Mark? It's between 30 and 80.
Oh, high again, 76.
59 goat-related pages on change.org.
Okay.
One of them, I fell down a bit of a linguistic hole, and one of them was pronounce goats, joats.
Hey?
You know the GIFs that you get, the moving images on the internet that just repeat over and over again on a little cycle? Well, obviously they're not GIFs. They're not GIFs, they're GIFs. So this argument was, well, if GIFs are called GIFs, then surely goats should be called joats.
Well, to be fair, you don't have a giraffe, do you?
No, but I feel like G and J are sort of interchangeable when you're pronouncing G words. I've got a couple more as well. Let's have you get the usual, get Carly a goat, or get Carly a joat. Sorry, and then you've got this one, which I found quite odd, which was the title was "Keeping a Goat," and the actual thing said, "Mackenzie's brother's dog keeps biting off the goat's ears, but now her mum wants to get rid of the goat instead of the dog." So this poor goat is clearly getting its ear bitten off it by the dog, but instead of blaming the dog and doing something about the dog, the mum is just sort of victim shaming the goat.
I tell you, the problem that I have with that sentence is keeps getting his ears bitten off. Like, how many ears does it have? Do the ears grow back in between? What's going on here with the ears getting bitten off?
Yeah, goats have regenerative ears, Mark. Did you not know that?
Well, it's sort of like worms. If you cut a worm in half, doesn't it regrow as two different worms or something?
Yeah, every time you cut off a goat's ears, they just come back within the next 24 hours.
Well, it's educational, if nothing else, this podcast.
That's why it's a good idea to take goats to the cinema, because if birds ever attack the goat, then especially the ears, it's no problem. The goat just gets its ears back again.
Do they sacrifice goats in Pastafarianism?
Yeah, probably. Who knows what they're up to, those kind of evil doers in Pastafarianism. They need that. So that's a bad religion. That should be wiped off the face of the planet, Pastafarianism. Now, this one is very odd. It's called Free the Radford Frat Goat. Now, Radford University must be somewhere in America, and someone has put a campaign up. It's come to public attention that a prominent fraternity at Radford University has a goat in custody for purposes other than atypical livestock studies or university-related reasons.
For reasons other than livestock or university-related reasons, like that justifies having a goat?
Yeah, like there's goat studies on the curriculum competing with English and history and biomedical engineering. It's like, I came to university to study goats.
This is not good goat reasons. They're implying that this is something sinister, are they?
Yeah, it is not verified, but it is suspected that the goat is being raised by pledges in order for them to kill it as initiation into the fraternity.
This is no longer inane. This is an important cause all of a sudden. We need to get there. We need to get over there and find that goat, man.
Wait, it continues. Now, this is very odd. I don't know who named this organisation, but they might have been smoking something whenever they named this. Well-known goat rescue organisation, Goats of Anarchy, has agreed to accept the surrendered goat and care for it in an environment and treatment well suited to the animal's health and well-being, with no questions asked. Okay.
Well, what sort of questions would be asked? Where'd you put the goat?
Okay, I've just got an interrogation scene with the bright shining light that you get in cop movies. And like, where were you on the night in question when the goat was nabbed from the field?
I know where it is, but I can't say, man.
It was alive when I last seen it.
I didn't want to do it. They made me do it, man.
They were all seen the next night eating goat curry.
Do we think they found the goat then? Did they ever find the goat?
It just says that the petition will be closed since the action requested has been taken by the Radford administration. So the Radford administration, it says victory. So I'm presuming that at some point either the victory is that they took action, or the victory is that they found the goat. Please, Pastafarians, flying spaghetti monster, please have saved this joke.
Should we talk about our campaigns for this week then?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What did you rule out this week?
Burglary. It used to be one time or other in my head that burglars wore striped jumpers and eye masks. I think that we need to bring that back.
Well, bring back the uniform.
Bring back the burglary uniform. The problem with burglaries is there was 422,000 burglaries happened last year in the UK. I reckon more would have been spotted if people had worn stripy tops and masks.
But, well, surely the reason that they wore those things was to make themselves inconspicuous, wasn't it?
Yeah, but one of the colours was white, and white and black is very contrasting. So visually, if you've seen white and black, albeit, a lot of burglaries happen in the dark, a lot happen in daytime as well. And if you've seen white and black, you'd be like, that's a burglar right there. I can see him. Oh, the eye mask. That's it. That's definitely burglary. 999. Hello, there's a burglary happening. Yeah. He's got the jumper. Yeah, and the eye mask. Yeah. It's such and such an address. Okay. Well, good luck. Bye.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, also with current coronavirus restrictions, he should be wearing a mask. And as we know, burglars are not likely to want to break the rules.
No, absolutely not. They are one of the most socially compliant sets of society.
Law-abiding.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to appeal to or do something about criminals, and force them. And I think they'll listen.
Well, I think if enough people sign a petition, then they'd be forced to listen, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. If we can get it up to, how many do we need for Parliament? I think it's 100,000.
100,000.
100,000. It needs to be on the government website, but I reckon they take notice if we had 100,000 on change.org. They would definitely be like, all right, well, and if we campaigned, me and you, Mark, then I think they would listen to us. And I think this is a really important issue, but not one that I'm going to do this week.
I think you don't even need 100,000. If it's the burglars, they're far more reasonable than government. I think they would listen at 75,000 probably.
Well, maybe even like if we can get it to 200, I reckon we'll get people.
If we could get it to 200, it would still be more successful than any single Inane campaign that we've run up until now.
Exactly. I think one of our campaigns should be any campaigns that Mark and Andy run that get over 200 need to be made law.
I think very much by the nature of this podcast, if anything that we talk about ever gets made law, there is something very seriously wrong with this country.
Or something very seriously right with this country.
Maybe. Andy for Prime Minister.
So what did you have any that you ruled out this week?
I did have a couple, yeah. Predictably, you might spot when this one came to me.
Okay.
Ban nightmares.
Right, okay, yeah. I wonder when that happened.
Yeah, I thought that would be a good thing. I think we should ban nightmares. I think that who needs nightmares? Nobody likes them. Nobody wants a nightmare, do they?
But I feel like nightmares are instructive. I feel like nightmares remind you that even at your most vulnerable, something can hurt you. And that's a good lesson for life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you wake up absolutely terrified, shaking, sweating, whatever, and then you remember, oh, it's okay, because life is actually that bad too.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, if you don't think that, but you think, I've woken up and I've had a horrible experience in my sleep, well, tomorrow will get better. So there's also the flip side, isn't there?
Well, there is something nice, isn't there, about coming out and realising, oh, it was just a bad dream, everything's okay, I feel good, and, feeling grounded again and having that moment that everything's okay. Like, for example, it's all right, Andy isn't suddenly 100 signatures in front of me. I don't have to do something too mental to try and catch up before my week goes horribly wrong. Here's another one for you. I thought we should start a campaign where Karens, and by that I mean genuine women called Karen, not women who are now being dubbed Karen, but genuine Karens can change their name by deed poll for free so that they no longer have to be associated with Karens.
I think that's a great idea. It's clearly become a label, it's pejorative, it's horrible. And it is really unfair. I know some lovely Karens, who I would want to spend a lot of time with, and they would happily wear a mask, and they would happily think this nice thing about a different type of person and all the rest of it. Some Karens that I've met are some of the nicest people I know.
Apparently, a few years ago, it was Becky's.
Ah, is that right? Again, I know quite a few nice Beckys, and I think that's really unfair.
I do think that, it's unfair on a lovely woman, as you've said, there are lots of them, called Karen, to be expected to have to give up her name over it. I don't think that that's right. So I didn't want to run with that.
I think that's a good move.
What about you? Have you got any more?
Have you seen recently on Twitter, and I don't know whether or not I've talked about this before, but have you seen on Twitter, like, there's these like high-end bakers that are able to do amazing cakes?
Yeah.
And like, you're looking at something that looks like, I don't know, a shoe or a chainsaw.
But then they cut into it.
I just think, right, this has thrown everything into confusion. And I think and obviously Twitter has run with this, and Twitter's like, can you trust anything anymore? It could be a cake. And I think there's only one way to solve that. And I think a bit like whenever you get tested at the door of like a barber shop now with the gun, the temperature gun, I think you've got to make people undergo mandatory cake checks.
What, in case the person is a cake?
Everyone could be a cake. It's a bit like in the World War where you're like, you couldn't trust anybody. They could be a German spy, loose lips, sink ships. It's like, well, they could be a cake.
I said earlier on in this episode, I was worried that if I carried on with this long enough, I might lose the plot.
Yeah.
You've just sat and seriously told me that you are worried that people might actually be cakes.
But, because you won't have seen this film, Mark, but there's a film called Invasion of the Body Snatchers where aliens get put into people and then they start infiltrating, and it's a metaphor for like the Cold War and Russian spies and so on. But who's to say that the Russians aren't putting cakes into people now and sending them over to undermine our democratic processes, so that when it comes to like elections and referendums and so on, the cake goes into the booth and the cake puts an X in the bit that's going to undermine our democratic integrity.
Now you've explained it, it makes perfect sense. Let me ask you this. If you were a cake, what kind of cake would you be?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would be a lemon drizzle cake.
Why?
Because I'd eat myself. I've just had a glass of lemon drizzled gin.
Lemon drizzled gin?
Yeah, man, it's good. Get on it. Sip Smiths. It's 20 quid a bottle, but it's nice.
Okay. I've never heard of lemon drizzled gin.
Get on it. But obviously, I would only ever advocate responsible drinking. So I've had one gin, and that's enough for me,
Yeah, stop there. I think given that you've just sat there and told me that cakes are now part of the new Cold War and Russia could be sending cakes to infiltrate normal society, I suspect that one lemon drizzled gin is probably enough for you.
I think that's probably a fair comment.
Do you want to tell me what your campaign is this week then?
Yes, I do. I'm a big fan of structure. I like when things have a kind of circular structure and stories and narratives. And as we get towards the sort of tail end of the episodes for this run of the Inane campaign, I feel like it's good to come full circle. And I feel like my last campaign should also be very niche and very specific, just like my first one was, where I exhorted Andrew Milsom, the estate agent, to stop sending me emails that told me nothing. I'm going to go very niche and specific again. I know a comedian called Paul Savage, and Paul Savage owns a narrowboat, and Paul Savage is trying to sell that narrowboat, and I shared it, and he said, "Oh, thanks for sharing. Maybe this could be an Inane campaign petition." And in lieu of in lieu of not having really thought about it too much, I just thought, do you know what? That's a great idea. So my Inane campaign this week is, and Paul Savage is a great comedian. He's a lovely bloke as well. So my Inane campaign this week is basically, I want to exhort the City of London or Sadiq Khan or whoever is in charge of the money in London to buy Paul Savage's boat for comedians to use to stay in London gigs.
I can't believe that Paul Savage has managed to get you to basically sell his boat for him.
Well, you know, I think that's a noble thing to do.
Hang on a minute. I know exactly what's happened here. You've shared, because you're a nice guy, and you do, you know, you're on social media a lot. You've shared Paul's advert for selling his boat. He's mentioned the Inane campaign. You've been so flattered that he's paid attention to what we're doing with the Inane campaign that you've gone, yeah, brilliant, I'll do it.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. I don't see any problem with that. I'll help a friend out. You should help a friend out.
Okay, yeah. My campaign this week is my mate Dave wanted a coffee in Costa, so I'm going to start a campaign for someone to buy him a coffee.
Oh, that's really sweet. That's a great campaign. Best of luck with it. I'll vote for that. Right, anyway, here's my blurb. So what I'm going to do, it's a bit of an unusual blurb, and you'll understand why at certain points. Okay. Paul is a professional comedian. He bought this boat in 2018 when his landlord had anxiety attacks and kicked him out. Boat life! It's got a Bosch boiler, and we all know how robust German engineering is. Just ask Volkswagen. Boat life! Paul does 20 minutes of material about how buying a boat was a mistake. He's now finding it hard to shift. Boat life! The best thing to do with mistakes is take them into public hands. We can use this as an experiment in government-owned, slow and ponderous travel before renationalising the railways. Boat life! It's only £35,000. That's pocket change to Rishi Sunak's socialist splurging during lockdown. Boat life! Yes, it looks kind of haunted and there's only one double bed which may complicate things for comedians staying, but anything's better than a travel lodge. Boat life! Paul will become an alpaca farmer in Chile with the money from the sale and free up a space on an already overloaded comedy circuit. Boat life!
So, tell me this, right? And maybe the answer is obvious and is staring me in the face, and I apologise if that's the case. What on earth has Phil Daniels and Blur got to do with you trying to sell Paul Savage's boat?
Don't know, mate. Just trying to make things a bit more interesting, aren't they? I think somewhere along the line of Paul trying to sell it, he used the word boat life, and that just went, in my head, it just went, boat life! And then I thought, well, I may as well do something silly. So I've actually taken a video of me doing that on my mobile phone, and I'm going to put it with the change.org petition, and hopefully people watch it and just go, he's off his nut. I'll sign that.
I'll tell you what else as well, which I've just realised. Whereas I was mocking you for having the idea to sell Paul Savage's boat for him, what you've also done is just recruited a campaigner for this week, surely. Because literally everything that you put up about this, Paul is now going to share and spread the word. Oh, well played, Mr. Gleeks. I think I'm in trouble once again. Once again.
You said that last week and I lost, so, you know.
Yeah, but I had to work really hard for it. I had to work so hard. And like you said before, I don't think I can message everybody that I know in my address book again.
Yeah, it just gets a bit tawdry, doesn't it? You feel a bit dirty doing it more than once. And that's why I'm keen to explore other options and try silly things and do whatever it takes to not have to suffer that indignity ever again.
Although I do have to say, I have to be honest, it has started up some conversations over Messenger with people that I have not heard from for a long time. And they've taken it all in very good spirit. And those people that don't want to play along, that's fine. They don't respond, and there's going to be quite a substantial amount of them. But it does reconnect you with a lot of people that you've got in your address book that you just don't talk to. So I'm going to go with it's been quite nice.
It is. And actually, that was one of the benefits from a couple of weeks ago when I did it. I did have quite long conversations as well with people that I haven't heard from in years. And that's lovely. And it's good to get in touch again and all the rest of it. So it does have that benefit. It's hard because it's a social connection, and a social connection takes its toll because apparently you can only have 150. Apparently some psychologist has said you can only have 150 strong connections in your life. And obviously on social media, you've got way more connections. If you then go back in, I wonder, are you then robbing from another connection, or is it taking too much of a toll on you because you're, I don't know. I'm just speculating really.
So if I message somebody to ask them to back my campaign and they respond, we get into a conversation, one of my family's got to go. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's about the size of it. Whenever your family collapses around you because you got in touch with Joe from primary school, don't say I didn't warn you.
Okay. Well, thank you for that warning. I will heed your advice very carefully.
Good, you should.
Right, do you want to hear what mine is then this week?
Not really.
Okay, good.
Yeah, go on. I'm joking. Go.
I think I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to build it up too much. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to read you my pitch and let you decide what you think of it.
Yeah.
Okay? Wetherspoons, the most British of all pubs. Often housed in architectural masterpieces, the venues never fail to disappoint with their cheap beer, cheap food, and cheap decor. They've become famed for their sticky floors, which can instantly turn the average British punter carrying 3 pints across a busy bar into a contestant from 70s manic game show It's a Knockout, another great British institution. It's no surprise then that at the helm of this most British of businesses is the fiercely vocal Eurosceptic Tim Martin, a man who appears to style himself on Back to the Future's Doc Brown and has political ideas that, like Marty McFly, are stuck in the past. Now, a moment of honesty here. I thought it would be amusing to post a campaign to ask Wetherspoons to get rid of all EU-based products before discovering, to my amazement when I looked into it, that Tim Martin himself had made this pledge to move away from EU-based products within 24 months back in 2018, in June of 2018. So the credit for this inane campaign should really go to him. The problem is, that was 26 months ago, and the majority of the products they offer on their hugely popular menu are still from guess where. A quick glance at the lagers on the Spoons app shows that today you could buy a pint of Carlsberg, Heineken, Guinness, Stella Artois or Kronenbourg if you were feeling continental and had 3 great British pounds burning a hole in your pocket. To be fair, the wine list is looking a lot more in keeping with Martin's anti-EU stance, unless you're a Prosecco fan, in which case it's virtually all Italian. Too early for booze? Grab yourself a Lavazza coffee, a brew that's very tagline is the real Italian coffee. So Mr. Martin has a bit of clearing out to do if he wants to get the EU out of his restaurants as much as he wanted to get the UK out of the EU. But why stop at drinks? The breakfast proudly boasts a dollop of Lurpak on the side, and the latest addition to the pizza menu is a carbonara pizza. And that's before we get into nitpicking about hollandaise sauce, brie cheese, halloumi, lasagna, and spaghetti bolognese. All in all, the hypocrisy leaves a bad taste in the mouth, much worse than the taste of one of Wetherspoon's cheap burgers. Mr. Martin needs to get this sorted and put his vast amount of money where his vastly used mouth is and start worrying about making his breakfast as free from Europe as his Brexit.
Ooh, yes, I like it. Hold Tim Martin to account. I like it.
Well, I'm playing a little bit on hoping that people already don't really like Wetherspoons and look for reasons to moan about it. And they might just play into this a little bit.
It's an inbuilt audience to sign your signature, to sign your petition. I think it's a good call.
Well, we shall see. I am worried that you have basically doubled up on people sharing your campaign this week. And I look forward to you dragging Paul Savage into the horrendous battle that is trying to win a week on the Inane Campaign podcast.
Yeah. Now, what I'll do next series is try and find a house full of comedians that are selling their house so I can get 5 people to support me.
I'll tell you what you really need. If you want comedians on board, just tell them that there's a gig at the end of it. Just say, I'm starting my campaign to stop my gig getting shut down and turned into a roller skating class on a Friday night, and they'll be all over it.
Yeah, because, you know, the world is coming down with open mic comedians.
All right, so once again, we will put our campaigns up on change.org. We will spread the word as far and wide as myself, Andy, and Paul Savage possibly can do over the next week. And we'll see how it goes in terms of winning support. And then next week, Andy, you and I are going to be actually face-to-face to talk about how we got on.
Ooh,
is that right?
In real life, we've got an actual mano a mano, where no Zoom call, we're going to be in the same room. I worry that it might get so heated that we might just have a punch-up.
It's going to be a showdown next week. So all of that anxiety and frustration that has been building up over the last few weeks can all just come out in one heated mess in our last show of the series. So if you're up for that, Andy, let's see how we get on with this week.
Just remember, Mark, I'm from Northern Ireland. I know how to fight a dirty war.
All right, mate. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take it easy.
Adieu, buddy. See you soon.